800 words, third person, simple English, suspenseful and emotional. The ground shook under Aiden's boots as he ran through the broken city of Shiraath 9. Smoke filled the sky. Fire rose from every corner. Human soldiers were retreating. The evacuation had begun. The war on this moon was lost. Aiden didn't look back. He only had a few minutes to reach the drop zone. His rifle was low on power. His suit was cracked on one side. His mind screamed, "Get out, now," but then he heard it, a small sound, soft, a cry, faint like wind, but full of pain. He stopped, his heartbeat slowed. It came from inside a collapsed alien bunker just off the ruined street. He looked around. His team had already passed. No one was watching. He should keep running, but he didn't. Aiden moved slowly toward the sound. Dust filled his helmet. The cry came again, like a child, afraid and alone. He pushed away broken metal, scorched wires, and sharp glass. Then he saw her. A small alien child, blue-skinned, maybe 6 or 7 years old, was curled up in a corner. Her legs were covered in ash. Her white dress was torn and burned. But what struck Aiden the most, she was holding a glowing pendant in her tiny hand, her eyes opened. Big, golden eyes filled with fear. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She just looked at him, like she was waiting for him. Aiden lowered his rifle. Hey, it's okay," he said gently, though she couldn't understand his words. He removed his helmet so she could see his face. She blinked. Slowly she reached toward him, but didn't speak. "You're just a kid," he whispered. "They left you behind?" The moon shook again. A piece of the ceiling cracked and fell behind him. The ship would leave in 5 minutes. He had no orders to save her. In fact, humans were not allowed to carry enemy life forms to the evac ships. This was a war rule. He looked at her again. She was still reaching toward him, silent, trusting. Aiden didn't think twice. He pulled off his emergency thermal cloak and wrapped her in it. She let out a soft sound, something between a sigh and a word. He didn't know what it meant, but it sounded peaceful. He carried her out of the bunker, keeping her close to his chest. The smoke outside was thicker now. His cum crackled in his ear. Last shuttle leaving. If you're not on it, you're staying behind. He ran. Every step was a risk. If any human soldier saw him carrying the alien girl, he could be arrested, maybe worse. But something told him to keep going. At the shuttle, the pilot gave him a sharp look. "What's that in your arms?" "Wounded civilian," Aiden lied. The pilot glanced once more. The girl was quiet, wrapped up, her face hidden. The pilot cursed under his breath, then waved him in. "Get on, you've got 30 seconds. Aiden climbed aboard. The shuttle doors closed behind him. The girl didn't cry. She didn't move. But she held tightly onto his suit, her small fingers gripping the fabric near his chest. One soldier sitting across from Aiden noticed. "What happened to her?" he asked. "Found her under rubble. Thought she was dead." "Then she opened her eyes," Aiden replied, keeping it short. The soldier didn't push more. The ship lifted off. Through the window, Shiraath 9 looked like a dying world. Fire, smoke, silence. Aiden looked down at the child. Her eyes were half closed. But the pendant in her hand was glowing softly, pulsing like a heartbeat. He had seen symbols like it before, on enemy banners. Royal banners. His stomach dropped. Was she someone important? Suddenly, she whispered something. Aiden leaned closer. She repeated it. Shaltarin. He had no idea what it meant. But the way she said it, like it was his name, the dropship flew into the black sky, leaving the broken moon behind. In his arms, the child finally fell asleep. Aiden didn't know what would happen next. He didn't know she was being hunted. He didn't know someone powerful had. Just noticed her pendant had gone missing. And he didn't know that in the far distance of space, her mother had just received a signal. A signal that would change his life forever. 800 words. Third person, simple English, suspenseful and engaging. The Medbay lights were cold and white, buzzing faintly above. Aiden sat on a steel bench, hands resting on his knees, trying to make sense of what he had just done. The alien child was asleep on a nearby bed, still wrapped in his cloak. Her tiny hands clutched the glowing pendant close to her chest. She hadn't said a word since the dropship left Shiraath 9, but her presence spoke volumes. Aiden had broken military protocol. No human was allowed to bring alien life, especially enemy young, aboard a ship. The punishment could be severe. Court-martial, dishonorable discharge, maybe even worse. And yet, he looked at her again, small, alone, her skin still dusty with ash, but peaceful now, as if she knew she was safe with him. The door slid open with a hiss. Sergeant Cale stepped in. Rough voice, sharp eyes. "Private Aiden, you've got 3 minutes to explain why there's an alien child in my medbay." Aiden stood. "Sir, I found her in the rubble, alone, injured. I couldn't leave her." Cale didn't blink. "You couldn't leave her? She's the enemy." "She's a child. She's a threat." "No, sir, she's scared. That's all. She didn't even cry when I carried her. She's not dangerous." Cale walked over to the bed and stared down at the girl. The pendant around her neck was pulsing softly, a rhythm like breathing. Then, Cale lowered his voice. "Do you know what that symbol means?" Aiden shook his head. "That's not just any pendant. That's royal marking. She's important, which means you just brought politics into a war zone." Aiden's stomach turned. "You're lucky the pilot didn't report you," Cale continued. "But command will find out. When they do, they'll ask why you risked everything for her." Aiden looked down, jaw tight. "Because it was the right thing to do." The room went silent. The sergeant studied him for a moment, then sighed. "We're docking with the orbit station in 1 hour. Once we're there, command takes over. I can't protect you. I'm not asking you to." Cale turned toward the door. "Then pray she doesn't open her mouth and say the wrong name." The door closed behind him. Aiden sat again. His heart was heavy, but steady. He wasn't sorry. Minutes passed. Then, movement. The child sat up slowly, blinking under the bright lights. She looked around, confused and scared. Aiden stood, walked over, and gently sat beside her. "You're safe," he said softly. She stared at him. Then, like it was the only thing she knew, she reached for his chest and rested her small hand over his heart. The pendant glowed. Brighter. Aiden froze. He didn't know what this meant. But something was happening, something he couldn't explain. Suddenly, the intercom crackled. "Attention. Incoming transmission from alien vessel. Highest clearance only. Transmission is requesting Private Aiden by name." Aiden's blood ran cold. "What?" The nurse at the console looked confused. "That can't be right. Why would an alien ship?" The console flickered. A hologram blinked into life above the table. Blue static. Then, a face, a woman. Tall, regal, and terrifyingly beautiful, with the same golden eyes as the child. Her voice echoed through the room. "Human soldier. You carry something that belongs to me. Return my daughter." Everyone in the medbay froze. Aiden's throat tightened. His heart pounded. The girl reached out and placed her hand on the hologram. "Mother." The hologram flickered again. The alien woman's eyes softened, but only slightly. "You protected her. For that, I owe you a debt. But make no mistake, she is royal blood. You are not her kind. You are not her kin." Then her voice lowered, colder than space. "But she has chosen you, and by our ancient law, that means something." The hologram vanished. Aiden stood still. His hands were shaking. The nurse whispered, "She chose you? What does that mean?" He didn't answer. Because deep inside, a quiet voice was forming. He had saved a child. But now, he might be part of something much bigger. 800 words, third person, simple English, suspenseful and emotional. The orbit station hung above the burning moon like a silver eye in the stars. Inside its clean, silent halls, soldiers walked with purpose. Machines hummed, cameras tracked every movement. It was a place of rules, order, rank. And yet, in the corner of the observation wing, a young alien girl sat curled up, wrapped in a human soldier's old cloak, refusing to let go of the man who had saved her. Her hand stayed wrapped around Aiden's wrist, even as he tried to gently pull away. "I just need to talk to the doctors," he whispered. "I'll be back in 5 minutes." But her grip tightened. Her golden eyes stared up at him, wide, scared, silent. Aiden sighed and sat down again beside her. "Okay, I'll stay." She relaxed only then, leaning into his arm. Other soldiers watched from across the corridor. Some curious, some whispering. Aiden heard parts of it. "That's the Empress's daughter. He's bonded now, isn't he? Why him?" He didn't understand most of what they meant. But one thing was clear. People were starting to talk. The door behind him opened with a soft hiss. A tall woman in a dark uniform stepped in. Her name tag said Dr. Rain, but her eyes showed no warmth. She spoke calmly. "We need to take her for testing. She might be carrying biocode markers, and we need to understand this bond." Aiden shook his head. "She won't go with anyone else. She's not yours. She doesn't trust you." "Doctor." Rain's voice dropped. "This isn't about trust, Private. It's about danger. If she's truly royal blood, she could be a political weapon." "You don't understand what you've stepped into." Aiden stood. "No, I don't. I only know I didn't leave her behind." The girl tugged gently on his sleeve. Her small voice rose for the first time since the battlefield. "Shota." Dr. Rain raised an eyebrow. "She keeps calling you that." "We translated it. It means something between guardian and claimed." Aiden turned to the girl. "Is that what I am to you?" She nodded slowly, then placed her pendant against his chest. The moment it touched him, it flashed. Not just glowed, flashed. Bright white light pulsed across its surface, and for a second, the air around them shifted. Like a wave of heat and wind had passed through the room. The station lights flickered. Warning bells chimed softly from the wall console. Dr. Rain stepped back. "What was that?" Technicians ran into the room. That wasn't power failure. That was some kind of activation surge. From her pendant, one of the crew checked a scanner. "It's sending out a signal, not a weapon, a signature, like a beacon." Aiden looked down. The child was staring at the pendant, then at him. As if waiting for what would happen next. Outside the station window, something shimmered in space. At first, it looked like a glitch, a star shifting. Then, the air bent, folded, twisted, and a massive alien ship decloaked right outside the orbit station. It was beautiful and terrifying. Smooth black metal, wings shaped like blades, symbols that matched the girl's pendant glowing on its hull. People gasped. The girl pointed to the ship. "Home." Dr. Rain froze. That ship didn't enter through human channels. It bypassed all scanners. That's royal stealth tech. That ship is hers. Suddenly, a new voice echoed through the station coms. Deep, calm, commanding. "We are here for the child. And the one she chose." The technicians stared at Aiden. "He's the chosen one?" One whispered. Aiden's breath caught. "I didn't choose this," he muttered. But the girl held his hand tighter. She didn't cry, didn't speak. But her message was clear. She wasn't going without him. Dr. Rain's voice turned low. "If you go with them, Aiden, you may never come back." He looked down at the child, then at the ship outside, then at the pendant. still glowing against his chest. Everything had changed. He wasn't just a soldier who broke a rule. He was now part of something ancient. Something sacred. A bond he never asked for, but couldn't ignore. He whispered softly, "You really won't let go, will you?" The girl shook her head. In far out in space. The Empress smiled. 800 words, third person, simple English, emotional, suspenseful and unique. The alien warship hovered outside the human space station like a silent predator. No weapons were fired. No threats were spoken. But everyone could feel it. This wasn't a rescue ship. It was a royal vessel, and it had come for two people, the lost princess and the human who held her bond. Inside the command deck, alarms had fallen quiet. Officers whispered. Even the admiral, a man who had survived 3 galactic wars, stared at the screen in disbelief. Why would they send a ship that size? For one child? He asked. A diplomat beside him answered softly. Because she's not just any child, sir. She's the Empress's only blood. In the medbay, Aiden stood motionless beside the young girl. Her hand was still in his. The glow from her pendant had faded, but the tension in the room had only grown stronger. Dr. Rain returned, holding a thin, glowing datapad. "I have a translation. It's worse than we thought." Aiden glanced at her. "What does it say?" She held up the screen. "This pendant, it's not just for identification. It's a soul binder." "A what?" Dr. Rain stepped closer. "It's part of an ancient ritual from her culture. If a royal child is about to die, and someone from another bloodline saves her with full intent to protect, the pendant reacts. It marks that person, not just as protector, but as life-bound." "I don't understand." Dr. Rain looked him in the eyes. "You didn't just save a child, Aiden. You accepted a bond. A sacred one that usually ends in marriage." The room fell silent. Even the technician stopped typing. Aiden laughed once, soft, shocked. "This is insane. I didn't agree to anything." "No," Dr. Rain said, "but your actions did. And in their law, that's all that matters." The little girl looked up at him again. She didn't understand the tension in the room, but she felt it. She moved closer, clutching his leg like a shadow that refused to leave. Aiden knelt down. "Why me?" he asked her, gently. "Why did you pick me?" She placed the pendant against his chest again and whispered, "Because you didn't run." He didn't know how to answer that. A chime rang across the station. A voice echoed through the speakers. "The Empress of the Sayari Dominion requests entry. She comes alone, unarmed, under truce protocol." Panic stirred. "Alone?" Someone muttered, "That's not possible." But she came. The hangar doors opened, and from a ship carved with gold and onyx stepped a tall, graceful woman. Her skin shimmered faintly blue. Her gown flowed like smoke, and her eyes, golden and cold, scanned every human soldier as if reading their thoughts. Aiden watched from the upper balcony. His throat went dry. She didn't speak until she stood in front of the admiral. Then she said, in perfect English, "Where is the man who holds my daughter's bond?" The admiral stepped aside. "Private Aiden, step forward." Aiden walked down the stairs slowly. The girl followed, holding his hand tightly. The Empress's gaze rested on him, piercing, unreadable. She said nothing at first, then slowly knelt before her daughter. The child let go of Aiden and ran into her arms. It should have ended there. But then the Empress rose, looked at Aiden again, and bowed her head. To him, gasps filled the hall. "I owe you a debt," she said. "You touched what was sacred, and you did not break it. You gave warmth where there was fire. You gave safety where there was death." Aiden tried to speak, but no words came. She continued, "In our law, that makes you more than guardian. You are now a part of her thread, and by extension mine." He finally found his voice. "I didn't mean to." "I know," she said. "Then What happens now? The Empress walked closer, slowly, like a star approaching orbit. Now, she said, you come with us, you learn our ways. Or you refuse, and tear her heart in half. But know this. She touched his shoulder gently, a gesture filled with history. If you walk away, the bond does not break. It only becomes pain. Behind her, the girl waited, silent, hoping. Aiden stood frozen between two lives, one he knew, one he never asked for. But in that moment, her small hand reached for him again and again. He didn't run. 800 words, third person, unique, suspenseful, emotional. The docking bay was quiet as Aiden stepped onto the alien warship. He expected cold metal, glowing weapons, armored guards. But what he saw took his breath away. The walls shimmered like flowing water. The floor felt soft beneath his boots, not hard steel, but something alive, something grown. Light didn't come from bulbs or screens. It drifted through the air like golden mist, responding to movement. Soft and warm. The girl, the one he had saved, stood beside him, her tiny hand in his. She walked barefoot, calmly, as if returning home from school. And beside them, just a step ahead, walked her mother, the Empress. Tall, silent. Every step she took, the floor bloomed with glowing symbols. Her gown whispered against the living walls. Soldiers bowed as she passed, but she never looked at them. She looked only at Aiden. He didn't understand it. He was just a soldier. A kid from Earth. A low-ranked fighter who followed orders and tried to stay alive. And now, he was walking through the heart of an alien empire, beside its ruler, treated like something sacred. He didn't know what was expected of him, but he could feel it in the air. This was no rescue. This was something more. They entered a chamber unlike any Aiden had seen. It looked like a temple, but without walls. Just open space. Stars glittering around them like they stood in a floating dream. At the center was a silver platform shaped like a petal, and around it, 12 tall mirrors. Each mirror showed not reflections, but moving images of other planets, other royal courts, other worlds. The Empress turned to Aiden. Her voice was soft, but powerful. You're in the chamber of choosing. I didn't choose anything, Aiden said, her lips curved. Not with words, but you acted. And on our worlds, actions speak louder than promises. She stepped aside. The council will watch. They expect me to offer a gift in return for what you did. But I will not offer you a simple reward. Aiden narrowed his eyes. Then why bring me here? She turned to her daughter. Because she made a bond, and so did you. And bonds must be honored, or they break everything they touch. One of the mirrors flickered. A voice echoed from it, in a strange language. The Empress listened, then translated. They ask if you intend to return the child to her people, and leave, or remain. As something more, Aiden's chest tightened. I don't understand. What does more mean? Her golden eyes met. To them, it means family, blood, legacy. To me, it means trust. He looked down. The little girl was holding onto his leg again. Her eyes weren't scared anymore. They were hopeful. I'm not royalty, Aiden said. I'm not even special. You were, she said, when you didn't run. Later, they sat in a quiet chamber lit by soft blue light. The Empress poured him a drink, not wine, but a clear liquid that smelled like earth after rain. You're wondering why I haven't tried to take her from you, she said. Yes, Aiden replied. She looked into the drink. Because she wouldn't forgive me, not now. Not after you stayed with her when the world burned. To her, you are not just her protector. You are her anchor. Aiden stayed silent. The Empress continued. But there's something else I must say, and it may change everything. He waited. She is royal blood, which means when she forms a bond, it echoes. Echoes? In our world, bonds don't end when one person lets go. They grow, spread, change the path of those around them. Her choosing you has created a claim. Aiden frowned. A claim on what? The Empress looked him dead in the eyes. On me. Silence. She spoke calmly. Our ancient law says a child's bond can pull the bloodline. Her bond to you means I am bound to consider you as a future match. Aiden blinked. A match, as in? Yes. He stood. That's not why I saved her. I know, she said, standing too. That's why the law listens. Aiden felt the weight of it now. The looks, the silence of her soldiers. The calm way she walked beside him. This wasn't just gratitude. It was invitation. It was test. The little girl entered, holding something in her hands. A carved piece of wood. A human toy. Something he had once given her on the ship to help her sleep. She offered it now to him, and then to her mother. A bridge. The Empress smiled. Gently. Aiden looked out at the stars through the temple walls. He wasn't sure if he was a guest or a groom, but he did know one thing. Whatever came next, it wasn't over. 800 words, third person, suspenseful, emotional, unique. News spread faster than light, across Earth's colonies and the alien dominions alike. The story burned through the networks. A human soldier has been so bound to the royal bloodline of the Sayari Empire. To many, it was just a strange headline. To governments, it was a crisis. In orbit above the peaceful blue and purple world of Sayarian Prime, a decision was about to be made, one that could shift the balance between two civilizations. And at the center of it all stood Aiden, still in his battered uniform, still trying to understand how saving one little girl had led to this. He sat alone in a chamber, built of starlight and memory. The walls were alive with whispers, echoes of ancient decisions, voices of rulers long gone. The chamber was called the Room of Threads, where history waited for new strands to be tied. Two holograms flickered before him. One was Earth's ambassador, stern and nervous. The other was the Sayari High Council, silent and watching with glowing eyes. Both sides had the same question. Do you accept the bond? He wanted to say no. He wanted to scream that he never asked for this, that he was just a man who couldn't leave a child to die. But when he looked down at the gift in his hands, a soft carved toy now worn smooth from the girl's small fingers, he couldn't say it, because he remembered the fire. He remembered her silence, and the way she had clung to him like he was the only star left in her sky. A soft sound came from the side. The Empress entered. No guards, no crown. Just her, tall, calm, and unshakable. She looked at him, not like a ruler, but like a mother. She doesn't sleep unless she feels your heartbeat near, she said. I never meant for this, Aiden replied. I know. That's why it matters. He stood, hands shaking slightly. Why won't they just let her stay with you and let me go? The Empress stepped closer. Because she made a bond. And in our world, a bond is not a thread you cut. It's a thread you follow. Aiden looked away. And if I choose Earth? She paused. They will say you turned your back on honor, on her. And in doing so, humiliated our law. There are those who would take that as war. Aiden swallowed hard. And if I choose your world? He asked. She didn't smile. Then you step into a future you never trained for. One where everything you do will be watched, judged, shaped. You'll become legend to some and a mistake to others. He looked her in the eye. And to you? She finally softened. To me. You'll be the man who reminded a mother that not all courage comes from warriors. The decision chamber opened. The child waited in the center, dressed in ceremonial silver. She didn't smile. She simply reached out her hand, waiting for the only person who had ever reached back. On one side stood Earth's ambassador. On the other stood the Sayari Council. In the air above floated one question, glowing and shared. Language. Does the human accept the role of chosen guardian under the sacred bond of the first thread? Aiden stepped forward. Every screen across two empires tuned in. He looked at the girl, silent, glowing, hopeful. He looked at the Empress, strong, steady, but uncertain now. He looked at the crowd, the cameras. The future. Then he spoke. Not loudly, but clearly. I don't know your laws. I don't speak your tongue. I don't wear your colors. But I know one thing. He reached down and took the girl's hand. She was alone. And I didn't leave her. And I never will. The pendant between them lit like a small sun. The crowd gasped. The Empress closed her eyes, just for a moment. A breath of relief. The Earth ambassador turned away, face unreadable. But the Sayari Council bowed as one. It was done. The bond was chosen. Not by politics, not by force, but by heart. That night, in the private halls of the starlit palace, the Empress walked beside Aiden in silence. Do you know what they'll call you now? She asked. He shook his head. She smiled faintly. The Threadwalker. The one who stepped between worlds and didn't break. He looked at her. What if I fail? You already didn't, she said. But as they walked together down the glowing corridor, a shadow stirred behind the royal walls. Something watching. Something not pleased. Because not everyone in the empire believed the bond was sacred. Some believed it was a theft, and they would not stay silent for long. 800 words. Third person, suspenseful, emotional, cinematic. The palace was quiet that night. Too quiet. Stars drifted above its glass ceiling like slow-moving ships. In the Empress's garden, trees glowed softly, their branches humming. With a gentle song only the Sayari could hear, Aiden stood on the balcony outside his new quarters. He still wore his earth boots. The rest of his clothing was ceremonial now, strange silk-like material that pulsed slightly with his heartbeat. It still didn't feel like his world. But inside, the little girl slept in his room, curled up with the same wooden toy he had carved for her aboard the evac ship. She had started calling him Shatar, but now it had changed. Father. He hadn't accepted it easily, but the bond had changed. Both of them. She no longer cried in her sleep. She didn't flinch at shadows. She smiled when he spoke, and when she held his hand in public. The palace guards no longer looked confused. They bowed. But not everyone bowed. That night, a figure moved through the royal halls like a shadow. Quiet, fast, trained. It wore the black and gold robes of the Empress's blood assembly, the most elite advisors in her empire. But this one came with no message, no offering. Only a blade, sleek, silent, poisoned with something ancient. In the throne chamber, the Empress stood alone, reading reports from Earth's diplomats. She didn't turn when the assassin entered. I knew someone would come. She said calmly. You broke the law, the figure replied. You gave our future to a species not of the thread. I gave our future to the one who held my daughter when no one else did. The blade raised, but it never struck, because Aiden stepped into the room, silent, unseen, his weapon drawn. Back away from her, he said. The assassin turned. You don't belong here, human. You're right, Aiden said. But she does. A sudden shot. The assassin dropped, stunned, not dead. Palace guards rushed in moments later, too late to stop what had almost happened. The Empress stared at Aiden for a long time. You should not have followed me. He holstered his weapon. You're my family now. That means I'm not letting you die quietly. Later, after the danger passed, she stood with him under the stars. You risked your life for me, she said. You risked yours by trusting me, he replied. She was silent for a moment. Then, in our world, the protector becomes part of the line, not just by title, but by choice. You have already become her father and soul. But tonight, you became something more. He looked at her. And what am I now? She didn't answer with words. She reached out, not as a ruler, but as a woman who had seen war, loss, and now something she never expected to find again. "Hope, you are the bond I didn't believe in," she said days later. The ceremony of threads was held. The grand hall opened to both humans and Sahari. For the first time in recorded history, two worlds watched the same moment, without fear. Without fire, the Empress stood beside Aiden, her daughter between them. Her people bowed, and Earth's flag stood beside hers. The ritual was not loud. It was a thread tied between hands. One by the girl, one by Aiden, one by the Empress. 3 hands, one bond. When the ritual ended, a voice echoed across the stars. "Let all worlds know, the bond was not taken, it was chosen." But behind the ceremony, something else began, whispers across the empires, of a human who held the Empress's favor, of a child who called 2 species home, of a man who once walked through fire with a stranger's daughter in his arms, and now stood at the side of a queen. They called him many things: guardian, the thread walker. The flame father. But to the girl he saved, he was always one word: mine. And when others asked her what he had done for her, she would smile and say, "He stayed."